Alrighty, strongest rifle. Here we go. As promised. Yeah. Gotta get this done because it's solo leveling day. Yeah. Right. First things first. These are the rifles. We have, in no particular order, Merciless, Ravenous, Diamondback, Vindicator, Dr. Home. There's going to be one huge glaring issue with what I'm about to do because I'm going to be normalizing all of the builds. There's no point comparing them all on different builds, so we're going to use the same build, obviously just moving around like the rolls or the crit damage stats. Merciless, bugged. It's actually bugged, doubly bugged now when testing to make this video. Yeah, Merciless is doubly bugged, which is absolutely fucking hilarious. But it performs best on strikers. And if you then bug out strikers, you can have like infinite friggin' DPS with it. This still isn't fixed. Ravenous, obviously again, works best on strikers. And it's also mostly used as a stat stick. Diamondback works best on negotiators. Vindicator works best on a high-end DPS build utilizing Pristine Example for perfect focus, and it's the same with Dr. Home. You can also use strikers with both of these, however they don't really tend to have the mag size or the RPM to get and maintain stacks, so a high end is generally better. Although technically speaking, Ravenous has a lower RPM than both Vindicator and Dr. Home. Vindicator's 380, Dr. Home is 320, Ravenous is 240. So yeah, it's got a lower RPM, but the flip side to this is it fires 2 bullets at once. So it is actually able to get and maintain stacks quicker and easier than basically any other rifle. Because of this, I've decided to put them all on a comparative build, which is just going to be your standard high-end DPS build. 3-piece Providence using the Gift, the Sacrifice, Contractor's Foxes, Coyote's Mask. I've got all the crit damage and crit chance stats already in. The only thing that's going to be really swapping around is going to be the mods. Yes, this is massively unfair to something like Merciless because of it, not Merciless, Diamondback, because obviously it doesn't need crit chance. But again, if we then try to factor in everything that weapon is able to do, we would then want to put it on negotiators, which is going to be unfair to the rest of the rifles. So this is like, all of them are equally getting screwed over. Maybe Diamondback just a little bit more. So, onto the builds. Up first is obviously Merciless, 54% crit chance, 159% critical hit damage. This is without Coyotes for all of them. Ravenous, 53, 174. We will also be obviously checking out talents for those that do have a damage talent. Diamondback, 42, 198. Everything's rolled to crit damage where I can. There is obviously some crit chance involved, but where I've got spare slots, crit damage. And then Vindicator, 54, 159. And this is also the exact same with Dr. Home, coming in at, again, 54, 159. And of course, we will be factoring in Coyotes at close range, and we'll be going over the burst and the sustain for all of them as well, with and without talents twice, because Ravenous is a thing, which is infuriating. Right, so now onto the math, and there's actually going to be a double roll of this, simply just because, like I said, Ravenous exists. It's basically got 2 talents we need to try and calculate. So up first, you might notice that on the base math there is a number below test base on Merciless. That's the explosion damage. It isn't being calculated this time around. It is just there to remind me that Merciless explodes. And yes, I'm aware that Merciless is missing an S. I know so well that someone's going to point that out. Anyway, up next is their DPS. First DPS. We actually have Dr. Home winning this scenario. Then Merciless, then Vindicator, then Diamondback, and then Ravenous, which potentially caught a few of you by surprise. It certainly caught me by surprise. Vindicator's actually doing a lot better than I thought it was. It's just a shame it forces you to scope in the exact same as Dr. Home. However, this is also why it's best to use something like pristine example for Dr. Home for that perfect focus. For their sustained DPS though, Merciless actually comes out the clear winner here with a really, really awesome reload, good mag size, and surprisingly, the weapon with a 11 round mag is dwindling heavily. Before someone asks, Ravenous is calculated at a 31 round magazine because you get 31 shots. Yes, when you do the double load, you get 62 rounds in the mag, but each time you pull the trigger, you fire 2 bullets. So we can't calculate it that way. We have to actually calculate it by shot action, not by the actual numerical values shown. Now we have the absolute hilarity of trying to add the talents in. So yeah, let's just get on with it. So this time around on Merciless, we are now calculating in that 1.9 million under the test base. We're going to be doing the explosion primers on Ravenous, and the easiest way I know how to calculate this is basically just double the base because that's effectively all that's happening. The flip side to this, quite simply, is at 240 RPM, we're actually only able to get 8 stacks, not the full 10. So I'm not exactly calculating DPS on Ravenous at this point. It's more like damage per 1.2 seconds, which is kind of cheating. Diamondback, we have critical hit chance now of 100, essentially, because that's what it does. And we also have a 20% amplifier on Amp 2, which I'm not sure if people actually realise that while you're getting those crits from Diamondback, you actually have a 20% amp. Vindicator gets a 60% amp, and Dr. Home gets nothing. Yay! So here we have the burst DPS. Merciless being the benchmark. Again, it's still spelled incorrect. I need to remember to fix that. Ravenous is doing a fair chunk more now. Diamondback is actually beating it at this point. Vindicator is actually getting up there, but Dr. Home has died for obvious reasons. And for sustained DPS, Ravenous is kicking butt. Not only does it have the largest mag size, it also is producing the most damage out of all of them, and it has a fairly good to okay reload speed. So now we need to test the other side of Ravenous, which is the amplified damage to armor plating, which is not affected by damage to armor. So hopefully you can notice that on Ravenous, I've removed the damage to armor stat. So yeah, that's the thing. And then we have a ×2 amplifier within Amp 2. Here's the fun part, and this is where it's going to get messy. This amplifier that you're able to get on Ravenous, although not for very long, you are able to stack it up to 3 times, which means Ravenous is about to get very, very silly. Although please do also remember that this is only against armor plating. Chungers, Warhounds, Razorback, shields, helmets. There's a few things here and there, but this is going to be more of a circumstantial thing. But this is what Ravenous is completely and utterly capable of. I'm pretty sure at this point this just counts as bullying. Like, it's doing nearly double. Like, we're approaching the doing double mark for a lot of these weapons. Ravenous is just absolutely silly. And then if we look at the sustained DPS, it is actually doing over double already. Like, it's bizarre. I've also actually removed the weapon damage from the whole primer side of it. So yeah, but then like I said, this can also be double stacked. It can even be triple stacked. So let's just have a laugh at the double stack. Here's the math. That ×2 in Amp 2's gone to a ×4. Here's the DPS. Yeah, we're doing ridiculous things now. Like, we've gone past bullying and we've just entered the realms of, do other weapons even actually exist? And then for sustained DPS, it just gets even sillier. Yeah, Ravenous, ladies and gentlemen. Like, this is potentially the most powerful weapon in the game. It's just only usable against like 10% of the actual enemies in the first place. Because that's how you do balancing. Yes. So obviously all that's going to happen in the actual math is that 4 is going to change to a 6. But yeah, this is where it just gets silly in terms of Unga Bungas. And it's utterly insane. Like, yeah. However, the main use for Ravenous is actually as a stat stick. We don't really rely on it for this type of thing. It's not really something that is actively done. Apologies for the lower quality, but this is what I mean by Ravenous being used as a stat stick. we're able to generate that bonus armor to give that amplified, and then we're able to get a silly amount of damage. It can actually go up to 1 billion. Hopefully you can see that that was a shot worth 601,069,184. So we're able to hit very hard utilizing Ravenous as a stat stick because of this amp that it actually gives. So yeah, in previous iterations of me doing this style of video on comparing the exotic weapons, I've tried not to like really give a full out answer or opinion on what the strongest one would be. However, when it comes to rifles, the fact that Ravenous even exists, although it is niche, although it isn't going to be for everyone, Ravenous is not only the strongest rifle, it is potentially the strongest weapon, bar none. It just doesn't work for everything. It's utterly insane in what you're actively able to do with this weapon, and is like the biggest mechanic in one-shotting near enough everything in this game, or one of them. It allows you to hit absolutely disgusting levels of numbers. Like I said, we were able to get like 1 billion damage utilizing Ravenous. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video. Hopefully we've learned something on just how disgusting Ravenous actually is. However, in the meantime, have fun. Good luck. Don't die. It's bad for the health.